Hello, I'm Scott Walker, Executive Director of CSARN. Our third annual conference, Maintaining Creativity, took place in Toronto on April 19, 2018. The theme was Relevance, which was also the subject of a panel discussion. We asked members of that panel and the leader of an exercise program that took place later in the day for their thoughts on how to remain relevant as an older artist.
One of the artists said, "I want to know how to continue to practice my art in the 21st century while staying true to the artistic vision I had when I started fill in the blanks, 40, 50, 60 years ago." And I thought at the time, what a great idea what a great theme for our next conference.
What you want most of all is to stay flexible, both physically, mentally, and seeing the world that is changing around you. That the world we all want to be relevant and we all want to work in the world that's around us now, but that wasn't the world that we grew up working in. It's different and it's constantly morphing and changing. So how do you stay flexible within this constantly changing world and remaining relevant to that world? That's the question. But more to be flexible for me means not to concentrate on yourself and your own needs. It's to concentrate on what are the needs of others, what are the needs of the community, and that keeps you alive for me. If it all becomes, well, what do I do? No one's offering me work. What about my work? What about my relevance? What about my art? If it's all that kind of inward turning, that's for me is the end of the road. It's all about looking out. And the world is exciting enough and changing enough and needs us enough that if once you start looking out, there's 1,000 things that need doing.
And I realized very long ago.
Well, it's curious about this whole conference because relevance is really not a word that comes up too often. But one of the things that I think is very important is that you have to practice. It's about doing stuff. It's about practicing it. It's about keeping the process alive. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be solely in an artistic way. It can be in anything that you do. I mean, you know, if you're doing anything well and you're moving it forward, then you're in some kind of practice. But if you want to move forward artistically, you've just got to keep doing. It's about doing it in whatever scale is appropriate for you. I mean, making things or making art or being in the art world is very much about play. And I think a lot of the times we forget or have forgotten how to play. And I think that we have to go back and explore what that means to play. That's one thing. And I think the other thing is that you got to have fun doing it. If you're not getting something out of it in the long run, and if it's not kind of fun and an enjoyable experience or profitable experience in the terms of not necessarily monetarily, but psychologically, emotionally, or intellectually, then it's not worthwhile doing. So I think that you've just got to go out there and have some fun.
I can't tell you how many times I've auditioned for the role of black woman, and I've never gotten it. So,
for me, it's artists staying relevant, women artists staying relevant. Just whatever stage you are at your career, that's something that keeps getting thrown in your face. Is there grants that are being cut? Are there enough plays about this political issue this season? And just to find your own niche, it just never stops. It just adjusts and changes as you go through your career. It makes sense that an actor would be a good dramatic writer. Not everyone is, but that's what it worked out for me. And then it makes sense that a dramatic writer would be good at coaching up-and-coming writers and helping them get the best out of their work. And then it makes sense that this dramaturg and writer could also then collaborate with a composer and write libretti for opera. So I've just been open to everything. I see these calls for submissions, I see these different things and say, I'll give that a shot, I'll give that a try. The advice I would give to any artist is be true to yourself. If you ever find yourself saying, well, this person said this, or this person, you know, they're so good at that, and you find yourself contorting yourself to fit into something that will, you know, be more popular, that will force some sort of relevance, that's when I've seen people really like stray from what their initial thing was, the thing that they're really good at, that could be really, because they were going for something else because of some external force. So I say, get to know your community, but put those blinders on when you do your own work.
Staying relevant as a book publisher is life and death. I would argue that a good publisher, and I was the head of McClelland and Stewart for 18 years, and I think I was a good publisher. And a good publisher has to be very sensitive, a sort of weather vane to which way the winds are blowing and which way the winds are going to blow, because to write and publish a book is often a matter of 2 or 3 years, so you have to be that far in advance. I have very strong advice, which is that you not only have to stay physically fit, you have to work hard at staying mentally fit, undertaking new mental work all the time. And I divide that into 2 areas. One is straight creative, in my case, writing or painting or whatever the creativity is, but also the business of staying part of the community, getting out there and being part of the wider world. And I think you need all 3. You need the physical, you need the creative, mental, and you need to be part of the wider community. And if you work at all 3, if you're lucky, you might indeed go on having a marvelous time.
Martha Graham, you know, the great American choreographer and dancer, said dancers die twice. It's true. When you stop dancing, when you leave the stage, it's a kind of, there's a grieving that happens because your identity is so closely woven up with your physicality. You are your instrument. But a wise friend of mine one day said, I said, what do I do? And he said, you pick up a thread and you follow it. It's like the Minotaur finding the center of the maze. And eventually that's what I did. That was when I left the stage, I found the empty page as a sort of platform. And I began to write, and I've done a lot of writing about Canadian dance. And I discovered as I delved into that there was an opening. I think it's important to put yourself out there, to go after those grants and to go after opportunities for a show or a showing or a gallery opening, and find ways to do your work that may not be exactly the same as they used to be, but to be there so that you can see other older artists also maintaining a public profile, continuing to work. Just in terms of funding, younger artists will sort of think, well, move over, you've had your chance. But I maintain that there's been a huge investment in artistic careers in all disciplines in Canada. We're so lucky through the course of 40 or 50 years in terms of some people's careers. And why would that become less valuable? Why is that not more valuable? So to continue to practice your art as you can, I think that's a key.
Interviews, can I hear you all say, I revel in my relevance. I'm done.
How does a senior artist stay relevant? By being alive, basically. Staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. That's basically it. I find one of the challenges that I have encountered as I enter into owning my crondom is there is a section of our populace of aging that seems to prefer to concentrate on the negative. And that don't do nobody no favors, especially yourself, because all that does is create toxic environments within oneself. I prefer to think of myself as an elder. And when I give myself the title that I have derived from my own personal ancestry, it makes me step up to the plate. Because as an elder, I have a certain responsibility to my village. and to share my knowledge, and to also be a repository for stories and for others to come seeking whatever wisdom I may have to share. Often, these very people point out wisdom to me that I didn't realize I possessed. And I find that very encouraging. I think that as an elder, to continue on this journey of curiosity, of interest, and continued learning. Like, it ain't over till it's over, and we can no longer say it ain't over till the fat lady sings, because baby, I be singing all the time. The fat lady singing, and it's P-H-A-T, which means fat and fabulous.